So Sydney's come to introduce our guest, Beverly Burgess. So please welcome Sydney Tackett.
Oh dear.
Okay, so Beverly Burgess and I have been friends for the last few years, and we've even gotten to be better friends because we've served on the board of trustees together. But I wanted to tell you just a little bit about her. I'm going to tell you just a little bit of history, and then I'll tell you a couple things that her kids told me. So sorry. She's Beverly Hawkins Burgess, and she was born in Hurricane. She was raised on a dairy farm with 7 other siblings. At a young age, she learned how to wash milk bottles and to sew. 1 year after graduating from Hurricane High, she married Joe, and your claim to fame, right, Joe? That's right. They lived in St. George, where Beverly owned and operated her own fabric store for a little while, and they went on to move to Cedar and purchase Zion Plumbing and Heating. Now, I remember one of the first stories she told me when she met me is that they bought this store, and then I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit about this, but lived in the basement. And the thing I remember most about it is her telling me about sharing the space with rats. And so it was mice. Anyway, and so she has come a long way to now being an owner with her husband of over 28 hotels, and I know they've been busy with the new care center. Is it in Oklahoma, I think? Is it Oklahoma?
I didn't even mention
Okay.
that.
But I asked her kids to give me a little bit of lowdown on her. And she and her husband, Joe, self-taught themselves everything they know about business and investing from that little teeny plumbing place that they had. I think sometimes we think that they started and just walked into all this knowledge, but no, they taught themselves. And one thing that one of her daughter-in-laws said to me is that Beverly loves to save lives. She said when she first married into this family, that she said, let's go get those tomatoes out of the garden and save some lives. And she thinks she saves hundreds of lives by bottling fruit and vegetables and keeping the family tradition of her mom alive. And she kind of hovers between being the owner of 28 hotels and still doing her own bottling. So somewhere in between there. Maybe she'll have a lot of shoes and nails or something while she's doing tomatoes. No, totally joking, but she's one of the most down-to-earth people I know. Besides that, she sews about everything. And I just find that really refreshing that someone that could go and buy something will still spend the time to sew for her granddaughters and her kids. She believes strongly in teaching people how to help themselves rather than giving them a handout. And I hope she'll share a couple of the stories of things that she's done from seeing people walk down the street that are homeless and helping them and teaching them their ways of work to other things she's done for other communities around. But her kids said that hands down, though, she can outshop anybody, and that if she gets together with her sisters, they all have the gift of gab, and you can't get a word in edgeways, but they said that's what they love the most about her. One of the, before I turn the time over to her, one of my favorite traditions that Beverly has that I would love to do something like this is when her grandkids turn 12, she takes them on the dream trip of their choice. And they've gone to South Africa. Because of COVID, they went to just Montana this year. I shouldn't say just, because to make it a beautiful event. She takes them to Ecuador. So this isn't just, I want to go to Disneyland. They pick some amazing places, and she goes. And she's traveled all over the world herself, just to travel and then also to help people. So it is like, I was honored when Tyler asked me to introduce her, and I'd like to turn the time over to one of the most amazing women I know, Beverly Burgess.
That was kind. Well, I'm happy to be here. I hope that I live up to what Sydney just said, but a little daunting. Years ago, a businessman from Salt Lake City who became a billionaire in the petrochemical business, stood on the stage here at this university and expressed these thoughts. He said, "Many people have asked me to write a book, but I couldn't write a book. Maybe I could write a chapter, maybe a paragraph. No, I couldn't even write a paragraph, but I could write a sentence, and it would say, 'Lucky, lucky, lucky me.' I could also write this sentence about my life. Most of us in this room, and I do know there's many international students now, so be patient with me here, are lucky for the same reason that John Huntsman was lucky. You are here in America, you can get an education, and you have the chance to create the life you wish to have. How many people live on the earth today? Roughly 7.3 billion. How many live in the United States? About 322 million. So some of you math students, about 4.3% of the world's population. Just by virtue of being in America, we have overcome some of the largest obstacles that could be placed in our way to have a successful life. Being born here gives you an opportunity. What you choose to do with this opportunity is your choice. When someone says that they want to be successful in life, what does this mean? Having a career you can support yourself and your family, having a spouse that has the same goals as you, having responsible children, having time and resources to give to God, your country, and your fellow man. I'm guessing that if every person in this room was asked what success is, you would each give me a different answer. If you go to Webster's dictionary, it says, the fact of getting or achieving wealth, respect, or fame. My definition might be something like this. Success is being happy and having the ability to take care of yourself and your family with enough extra to make the world a better place. Money is not the only thing that makes you a success. The magazines are filled with people with lots of money that are miserable. I have a sister who decided she would rather live with less money, fewer things, and take vacations closer to home than have a regular job. She quit work several years ago, making the decision to live on her husband's salary, and now she has the time to do things that she couldn't do when working, like hiking and riding her bike. She raises a garden, serves in her church, and can help one of her family members at the drop of a hat, because she doesn't punch a clock. I count her as a successful person. I'm guessing the reason I have been asked to be here today is because of the success my husband and I have had in our business and the service we have given to our community. When someone reaches financial success and has financial security, it doesn't make them automatically happy. Many times it does just the opposite. Happiness comes from the journey through life of taking care of your family's needs, of continually learning, becoming better at what you have chosen for a profession, of having dreams and goals that you're constantly working towards. Having good relationships with people, helping people, serving your family, community, and country, and making the world a better place. So what are some of the first steps to becoming successful in this life? I'll tell you this, it doesn't start in the future, it begins today. We can have successes at every stage in our life. We can be successful children, successful teenagers, successful family members, successful professionals, students, church members. Regardless of the type of successes, there are some rules and guidelines that can help you. My first advice is learn to work and enjoy it. If you spend a great amount of time working at you will spend a great amount of time working at your career, in your home and your community. If you don't like work, you will be miserable. Start now to like work. You may think that you will just wake up one morning when you're an adult and magically start liking to work. But I can promise you, it doesn't work that way. Learning to work is a choice that you must make a decision about. Some work is easier to like than other work, just as some work has greater rewards than other work. So choose wisely what your life's work will be. One of the reasons I believe all teenagers should have a job is so they can learn some of the things they don't want to do forever, like cleaning hotel rooms or flipping burgers at the local dairy freeze. The earlier in life you can decide what you want to do, the better. This decision is easier to make if you have worked hard at school, in your community, and at a job or multiple jobs. Do your research and explore the facts and situations about a variety of occupations. Pay close attention to the lifestyle different occupations will provide, not just the salary you will make. Make an informed decision early on, and don't waste time and energy second guessing whether it's right or wrong. Move forward. If down the road you realize that you made a wrong decision, cut your losses quickly and change course. Learn all you can about everything you can. Especially learn to enjoy work. Be the first on the job. Don't look at the clock, and be the last one to go home. You have people around you who are willing to help and to mentor you. Find those who will give you direction, advice, and encouragement. Those that you go to for advice should be the most successful people you can find. They are the types of people who actively contribute in their churches and communities, as well as their families and work. You may be surprised to know this, but successful people want you to be successful also, and they are willing to teach you what they know if you are willing to work. I did not have the opportunity to attend the university, but my husband and I never quit studying and learning, especially about business. I usually spent the first hour of the day in my office engrossed in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. I've also read many biographies on those who made a name for themselves in business. You should always be learning. I was born in St. George and raised in Hurricane on a raw milk dairy farm to parents who taught me to work, and somewhere along the line, I learned to like it. I learned to drive in the 2nd grade, and that same year I started getting up at 5 a.m. to help wash milk bottles, clean the room where the cows were milked, and feed calves. I spent many hours in the summer on a wagon on the side of the highway with my sisters selling fruit and melons. We had to learn early how to weigh the melons, calculate the cost, and figure change. We also had to calculate money selling milk and groceries in our little store. We got paid for our work on the farm, and then we had to pay for things that most other parents paid for, like school fees, clothes, and movies. It was a great way to be raised, but when I started dating Joe, I told him I would go along with about anything as long as it had nothing to do with agriculture. I wasn't sure I wanted to work that hard. My husband, who was raised in St. George, had a somewhat different youth, but had the same result. He also learned to work and like it. During his elementary years, he spent many hours on a horse helping his dad at the ranch. At age 12, he started working full-time at the cemetery, helping to dig graves, mowing lawns, and cleaning up. At 13, he got a job keeping a car wash clean, and at 14, he was working after school and on weekends and nights, pumping gas, selling tires, batteries, and such, which paid a commission. He learned quickly that selling a set of tires paid more than his entire shift doing manual labor. Joe and I began dating in high school, and our dating conversations were often about business, designing homes, and what we wanted to accomplish in our life. The only thing we really knew was that we wanted to own our own business. One day, Joe's English teacher, Mrs. Phoenix, posted a cartoon on the bulletin board with the following text and picture. A plumber, having just repaired a lady's sink, presents her with a bill. She looked at it and remarked, "That's more than my doctor charges." "I know," he replies, "I used to be a doctor." That answered the question of what our business would be. He began to apprentice as soon as he graduated from high school and attended Dixie College in the evenings. It takes 3.5 years of work and school to sit the journeyman plumbing test. We married young and soon after started building our first home. I learned several lessons doing this that have helped me my whole life, and they might help you. I have no idea why my parents or banker didn't explain this to me, but in those days, you could borrow up to $25,000 to build a house at 1% interest if you were low income, first-time home buyer. course. I fit that very well. Thinking that borrowing as little as possible was what smart, responsible people should do, we borrowed $17,500. Our payment was under $100 a month, which was cheap even in those days. But we still needed a dishwasher, washer and dryer, and a compressor for the air conditioner, so we bought them with consumer loans that at that time were anywhere from 10 to 18% interest. I learned a lifelong lesson. If someone is willing to loan you money at 1%, you should borrow as much as they will loan you. After I had all those things paid for, I vowed there was nothing I wanted bad enough to make monthly payments at 10% interest. If I don't have the money today, I'll wait until I have it. The difference between 1% amortized over 30 years and 10% over 3 to 5 is huge. It took every dime I had each month to make my payments. I hated it. If you don't understand amortization and interest, find someone to explain it to you. This crowd should all be there. While building our home, we had the opportunity to buy a fabric store with Joe's parents. I had been working in a fabric store and sewing for people for several years. And when I was at home working on the farm, I liked the job of selling the milk because I could sew while I was at the store and I would get paid for both. Sewing was a skill I learned at a young age, and it gave me an opportunity to make money doing something I enjoyed. I had a natural gift for it, and I got paid twice what most of my friends were making working fast food or other entry-level jobs. And it was something I enjoyed doing, so it wasn't like going to a job I hated. The store was doing well enough that the next year we bought Joe's parents out. After a full day of plumbing, Joe felt he had a few more hours a week he could work. We purchased a trencher so he could dig trenches for power and water lines after hours and on weekends. The trencher could make enough money to pay for the payment, but we needed a truck to pull it. We had very little money, but we found a 1953 Chevy truck for a few $100s. It wasn't very safe as the trencher weighed more than the truck, but it got the trencher to the job and back. Joe finished his apprenticeship in school in record time, and we were given the opportunity to move to Cedar to run a plumbing and mechanical business. Because we knew we wanted to own our own business, we weren't interested in being an employee. But we were interested in being a partner. The only problem was we had no money, at least not enough money to buy a business. So Scott Hershey, the owner of the company, and my husband came up with a plan. Joe and I would work for 1 year without wages. And at the end of the year, we would own free and clear 50% of the business. We sold the fabric store in our home and moved to Cedar City. We lived in the back office of the plumbing shop, which was a 12 by 14 foot room. We slept on a mattress on the floor, shared a bathroom with the workers, and cooked on a hot plate. Some of my fondest memories are of the year we spent in the shop.